Well, here we are. We're 9 months into Joe Biden's first year in office. Mr. Competence, how's he doing? How's he doing? He's doing terribly. He's a disaster, and you can't point to one part of the country where he's not been a disaster so far. Okay, he's been a disaster on the border, obviously. There's no disputing it. You can argue about it with liberals all you want, but the physical fact of the matter is that Joe Biden blew it on the border. Everybody knows it. All right, and they painted themselves into a corner and they don't know how to get out of it. The number of illegal crossings has gone up 1,000%, literally 1,000% since he's entered office. It is not going down, it's increasing, and slowly he's getting back to wanting to put back in the controls that Trump had, but doesn't dare do it because of the political ramifications, but I think eventually he's going to have to. Fentanyl deaths are up by 40% in the United States this year compared to last year. And the economy is doing pretty well in spite of him, but there's some real worries about his tax policies that could severely impact the economy coming up in 2022, just in time for the midterms. Now take a look at Afghanistan. Afghanistan is the nail in the coffin as far as Joe Biden's presidency goes, because this is just starting. This is not the end of the problem. The problem is going to get much, much, much worse. And the argument that Joe Biden used that he was just following Trump's plan has been absolutely decimated, because Trump's plan involved a number of conditions that had to be met. Conditions like we hang on to Bagram, the air base, until all our people out, and we're going to use it as a staging area. We're going to hang on to the 5,000 inmates until we get all our people out as a leveraging chip. We're going to require the Taliban to work out a coalition government or some sort of cooperative relationship with the provinces with the capital in Kabul. All right, they had all these preconditions that they had to meet before the United States would leave. Our target was to leave in May, but Trump was out of office, and Joe Biden was left to flounder around for 4 or 5 months. And then also Trump wanted to get everybody out before the fighting season began. Joe Biden, yes, a lot of people don't understand is that Afghanistan has a fighting season. And the fighting season starts in late May and runs through the summer into the fall. We're in the middle of fighting season. After that, the Taliban disperse. They go back to their homes, they go back to their villages, and they really don't do much. They only fight about 4 or 5 months of the year, and that's the end of it. All right, Joe Biden decided to do his exodus right at the height of fighting season, right at the moment when the Taliban are at their peak of power. And we all saw how that worked out. We saw him abandon the Bagram base. We saw him let out the inmates. We saw him stab in the back all of our allies by not telling them that we were leaving. He didn't even tell the Afghan government we were leaving. They found out after we were gone that nobody was left. And what happened was it turned into a colossal failure, because they realized all the Americans and people who were eligible to leave were still stuck there. So they had to send back in 6,000 people. And rather than working out of the Bagram base and other bases around Afghanistan, they were isolated to using just one, that single runway dump of an airport in Kabul, which is just this sad little place, which was highly vulnerable. The Taliban took over the checkpoints, controlled the entire city, and were controlling who could and couldn't leave, including many Americans and many people who had the papers and so forth to leave. And they're still there to this day, even though Joe Biden promised that he would get 100% of the people out that wanted to leave. He promised 100%. At the end, he admitted, well, we got 90% out. To Joe, 90% is as good as 100%, I guess. And of course, the really big problem is what we handed the Taliban as far as weapons goes. The Taliban is a terrorist organization, first and foremost. They're no different. It's as though he gave all those weapons to Hezbollah or Hamas. Just imagine. We gave all those weapons to the Taliban. And for a long time, people are always talking about Iran being the biggest sponsor of state terrorism in the world, and because they give $1 billion a year to assorted terrorist groups here and there to fight their proxy wars. The United States gave the Taliban $90 billion worth of our best weapons, top-of-the-line stuff, all in one swoop in a matter of 2 weeks. He just handed it over to them, $90 billion, all right? If Iran handed out $90 billion worth of free weapons to terrorist groups, we'd bomb the place, all right? But Joe Biden just turned it over to them. And not only that, he allowed them to hang on to our civilians. And not only that, he allowed the release of 5,000 terrorists who are in prisons. And Joe Biden thinks he won. Joe Biden thinks this was a very successful operation. And now we have thousands of people in Afghanistan who still want to leave, that can't get out. The Taliban are rounding up people who worked with foreign countries during the 20-year war and executing them. And that's literally what's going on right now. And you'll be hearing more and more about it as media reopens over there slowly and people start coming and going. You're going to hear some real nightmare stories. And we'll be back to soccer stadium executions like the good old days before you know it. And you can thank Joe Biden for it. You can thank Joe Biden for the new instability on the Pakistani border, because 20% of the terrorists that fighting with the Taliban are Pakistani, and now they're heavily armed. All right, so we've managed to really, really, really blow it in a big way. We've lost the confidence of the Brits. The Brits condemned Biden in Parliament. The French don't trust us. The Germans don't trust us anymore. The Dutch don't. Heck, poor Boris Johnson couldn't even get Joe Biden on the phone for nearly 2 days because he didn't want to talk to him, because Joe Biden has, I think, a little bit of dementia. People with dementia hate being yelled at. It upsets them because it throws off all of their compasses. And Joe Biden now is hiding. He's on vacation again. He's here, he's there. He's making no public appearances. Vice President Harris has become absolutely invisible. She's making no public appearances, and she hasn't yet to do one press conference since she's been in office. She's been in office for 9 months. She has not had a single press conference. Think back to Mike Pence. He did press conferences every week. He did them anytime people wanted them. Donald Trump, though you may not like what he had to say, he was more than happy to talk to journalists and do a few rounds with them anytime they wanted to. Absolutely fine. He used to stop on the rope lines and answer questions as long as people would ask him. Sometimes it went on for an hour. He was fine with that. Joe Biden, his handlers come and grab him and they pull him off the stage like a vaudeville performer getting the hook. All right, and that's where we are, and it's not going to get better. This is not going to get better. This is going to get worse and worse and worse, and you're going to see our weapons being used around the world, and this problem of people being trapped there is going to get worse as the reports come out. And as you can see here, his disapproval numbers are up to 60% on Afghanistan. His disapproval numbers on overall presidency right now are in the 50s, and you're going to see those go up. And by 2022, when the November elections come around, you're going to see the House flip. You're going to see the Senate probably flip. And you're going to see the brakes get slammed on this administration until a Republican can get voted back into office, possibly Trump. And they're going to finish the wall. They're going to build the pipeline. And then that president will, if it's Trump or whoever it is going to reestablish relations abroad and reestablish our commitments with our allies. Because Joe Biden is not doing that. Joe Biden doesn't care about our allies. Joe Biden cares about getting things his way. He believes in getting things elected. He believes in doing things that'll help the midterms. And all of his efforts to do so are backfiring in his face. And that's the way it's going to go from now on. And I don't know how badly he's going to screw up something next, because he's managed to screw up some awfully good things in very short order. And there's going to be so much more. And eventually the media is going to have to speak out. All right. And that's all there is to it. Even the New York Times, that sad rag of a paper. But let's wait and see what happens. Okay. Bye.